If you could go back and change the past, would you? What would you change? Me? I'd go back and tell George Clooney that playing Batman is a bad idea. On this episode of Moving Panels, we discuss the Flashpoint paradox. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. I'm your host, Laramie Wells, and joining me today in the co-host chair is someone who probably bawled his eyes out at the end of this movie, our dapper southern gent, Blake Fowler.
No, Laramie, this is not a multiverse version of me. Something is wrong with my voice, and so everybody's going to have to deal with a little higher pitch this evening. It's not from the tears I cried at the end of the movie.
That's going to be fun when we get to that point.
Yeah, okay.
To see you. So we are talking about the Flashpoint paradox, or I guess the full title of this is actually Justice League,
there we go.
The Flashpoint paradox.
I love a good colon.
Yeah.
Sorry. What?
This movie was released July 30th of 2013. Did you see it right as it came out? I mean, I know it was a straight-to-video, so did you buy it? Did you rent it?
I did not. This is my first time seeing it when I watched it for the podcast.
Really?
Yep, first time, first through. I wasn't really big... When all those came out, I wasn't really big into the Justice League movies. If anything, Batman came out, like strictly Batman, I was watching it.
Yeah.
But I didn't get into the actual comics until the New 52, and so... Which
Flashpoint is
what sets this up. And I got into it a couple of years late. I think the Flashpoint comic is a little earlier on. But
2011.
2011. Okay. Had the 10-year anniversary then. Cool. Yeah. So I didn't see it when it first came out. Just watched it for the first time here. Much like our Avengers episode, which if you haven't heard, you should go check out.
Yeah. Shocker.
When I ruined everyone's night.
Now, I will point out, you may not be aware of this, Blake, but this will be episode 52, which is why I chose to do the Flashpoint paradox.
And nobody can see, but I'm doing like the puppet dance hands right here. Good job. The puppet master here orchestrating episodes.
Yeah, not only is Flashpoint the storyline that, of course, gave birth to the New 52 run in the comics, this was also the movie that kicked off the DC animated universe.
Right.
All of the movies prior to this were separate storylines. As soon as Flashpoint Paradox happened, we got a whole series of connected movies.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that DC and Warner Brothers can make a good extended universe, but only animated?
Oh, I mean, but you and I have talked about how well DC can do animation.
I love bringing it up every chance I get, though.
Yeah, they can do. I mean, they already had a connected universe with the television shows.
Right.
So, yeah, now they just finally made it into the movies. But, so, wow, okay. I'm just, again, thinking about, this was really the first time you saw this?
Yeah, it is. It is. Now,
Batman's like a secondary character. I would have figured...
Okay, again, let's rewind and talk about my understanding and expertise in Batman animated this time was Batman the Animated Series, Batman the New Adventures, Batman Beyond. I didn't have any connection to or understanding of Thomas Wayne as a Batman. So this was all new for me, and it didn't really get my interest at that point.
Okay, well then let's find out where your interest peaked seeing this.
Let's do it.
Let's get into the characters. I'm honestly just going to run through this list because there's so many characters, voiced by so many great people, which you and I have talked before about the great voice acting.
Again, stellar casting with the voices. Again, yeah.
So I'm going to run through this. Our two leads, the Flash and Batman, both played by Grey's Anatomy actors. The Flash is played by Justin Chambers. And then the Thomas Wayne version of Batman is played by Kevin McKidd. Now, the Bruce Wayne version of Batman that's at the beginning and end of this is Kevin Conroy.
Obviously.
Of course. So we got dueling Kevins playing Batman.
I do appreciate your ability to sneak in a Grey's Anatomy reference in the middle of a comics podcast. Yeah.
I just found it funny that both of these actors are from Grey's Anatomy. Then we've got before he was Killmonger, we got Michael B. Jordan voicing Cyborg.
Very cool.
Carrie Elways voicing Aquaman.
No relation to John, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Unlike some other Aquamans, I can speak with an English accent.
Oh, that is...
Let's see how many people get that reference.
Shots fired.
All right. Wonder Woman, played by Vanessa Marshall, who has voiced Wonder Woman and or Black Canary in a lot of animated projects.
Nice.
She's voiced other characters as well. She was Gaia in the Green Lantern animated series.
Oh, okay.
If you remember that.
Yes.
Then we've got, who else can voice Hal Jordan but Nathan Fillion?
Yes.
Ron Perlman, Hellboy himself, voicing Deathstroke.
I know. So I heard that voice, and I was like, that's Hellboy. And I went and looked it up, and sure enough, Ron Perlman. Good for... again, the casting is always so superb. We keep repeating it over and over again, but that's because of how well they cast these characters.
Oh, so great. In Eobard Thawne, Professor Zoom, Reverse Flash, whatever you want to call him, voiced so brilliantly by C. Thomas Howell.
Another
80s fame there for Tim Williams. He'll enjoy.
Shout out 80s Flick Flashback.
Yeah, of course. Got to support our fellow podcast. Grifter, who I do want to talk about a little bit more in detail later.
Okay.
Voiced by Danny Jacobs. And then so we also had these other great voice actors, D. Bradley Baker, Steve Bloom, Greg Griffin, all great voice actors that do parts in this. But I want to talk about Superman and Lois Lane. So Lois Lane is voiced by Dana Delaney.
Okay.
Who has been the voice of Lois Lane since Superman the Animated Series.
Yes.
Love that they keep her there. Just like Kevin Conroy with Batman. However, Superman is not voiced by Tim Daly. He's voiced by his son, Sam Daly.
No way. That's a pretty cool little bit of trivia, though.
Yes.
Like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so Tim Daly, of course, is Superman from the animated series, not from Justice League. When it became Justice League, it switched to George Newbern. Mm-hmm. But for Superman, the animated series, as well as many of the animated movies prior to this, the Superman animated movies, he was voiced by Tim Daly. In this movie, even the very little dialogue that Superman has, it's his real-life son, Sam Daly, and I just absolutely love that.
Yeah, I hate no one can see Laramie full-on geeking out over that little bit of trivia. But it's a cool little nod to Tim Daly. Obviously, he didn't carry on through the Justice League series, like you said, but to have his son cast, I did not know that. So, very cool. Dropping knowledge already.
Well, let's just throw this last one. I want to ask you, I don't know if you looked up cast list or anything, so I want to ask you about this one. Do you remember when Barry goes to Iris's job?
Yes.
And there's the woman, the secretary, who says, "What can I help you with?"
Yep, I remember.
And Doris, he was like, "It's me, Doris. It's Barry." Do you know who voices Doris? For that small little part?
If I say Betty White, it would be a total guess.
Well, it was Andrea Romano. Our voice director legend.
The legend herself.
Yes.
Well, I guess if you do something so well for so long, you've eventually got to see what it's like on the other side, huh? You want to hop in there and put your own voice on tape.
Yeah, you got to bow down to the queen of finding all these amazing actors. So, who do you want to talk about? Who do you want to focus on these characters? Like I said, there's so many.
So as far as, and I guess we'll get into it later, because the comic and the movie do vary mildly, but in a couple of ways. I felt like in watching the movie, the character, other than the Flash, that stands out the strongest to me is Cyborg. Even though you say Batman's a secondary character, Cyborg's his battle to want to be a tool, so to speak, or a part of the U.S. government, and still wanting to get a job done. He's
essentially Superman in this multiverse. Yeah.
That's a pretty cool battle to watch for him internally, knowing the Victor Stone that we get in the normal universe, always wanting to do the right thing. I mean, you're comparing him to Superman. Cyborg is a Boy Scout. He does the right thing all the time. So watching him, the government has at a certain point released me from my duties, so I'm just going to go do the job however I want to.
And Michael B. Jordan does a great,
fantastic job
with this. Yep. I honestly forgot that he was the voice of Cyborg until I watched it. Mm-hmm. I thought it was, I forgot his name right now, but Carrie, what's his name, that pretty much does his voice for everything else. Yep. And then I think Shamar Moore continues in Justice League War. I think Shamar Moore takes over the duties. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan does a great job. I like that. And this was the beginning of the New 52. This was when they bring Cyborg in, as he's no longer a Teen Titan.
Right.
He's a main hero.
Justice League fixture.
He's a member of Justice League. And I forgot, is it the movie or the comic book that when Barry sees him, he goes, well, you're all grown up.
The comic book, he's like, you're a lot taller and wider.
Yeah. So I like the reference to that and him being the bigger character. But yeah, the fact that he is essentially this world's version of Superman, where he's the main hero. Yeah. I mean, and the movie shows that when he shows up and rescues Yo-Yo.
Yeah.
And Yo-Yo immediately says, I surrender, because she was like, it's Cyborg. Yeah. She's even in awe.
Yeah, enamored with Cyborg. Yeah. So is there anybody in the comic, just talking about the comic, that you felt like we could have done without? Because you said there's a litany of characters in this thing. Is there someone that as you were reading, you're like, I could have done without this person?
So in the comic, is there somebody we could have done without? I'm going to guess you have someone in mind.
I do.
Which is why you're asking. I mean, there's characters that we did do without.
Yeah.
Which I had to get into when we do talk about the comparison. I don't know. Who do you have in mind?
I guess it's a little bit of a trick question because she's not in the movie either. So you've got the whole Element Woman plot line that goes on. Yeah. In Flashpoint, and
I actually forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my whole point.
She really serves no purpose.
Yeah, she saves them one time when
they rescue Superman.
He flies off. Now in the movie, they retcon that and fix it without her. But in the comic book, that's like the only thing she does.
But then she's always there for everything else.
It's a comic.
She's just there.
It's a comic relief part, which makes no sense because. So help me out here. Yo-Yo is a substitute for Harley Quinn. Yeah? We
kind of seems that way, yes.
Element Woman is supposed to be Poison Ivy, then?
No, I assumed it's a female version of Metamorpho.
Ah, okay. I can see that too. Okay. I was just trying to think, why are they giving the comedic part to, whether it's Metamorpho or Poison Ivy, why are we giving the comedic part in a comic to that character and not just having Yo-Yo be the person... And we can cut out a character. There's a lot crammed into the comic book. A whole lot crammed into it.
Oh, yeah. Because, there's a lot of characters that almost seem unnecessary. There's that whole group of heroes that...
Hologram in? Yeah,
that Cyborg hologram in. I mean, the only one that even matters later is Enchantress, which we'll get into later.
You have a Captain Thunder, a Shazam, plays a small part. But the Outsider. Look, I can't even think of anybody else that's there, dude. It was so forgettable.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Well, I mean, Citizen Cold.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But we'll get into a lot of that. So what did you think? You mentioned The Flash earlier. What did you think of Justin Chambers' voice for Barry Allen?
I wasn't a huge fan, but was able to overlook because of all the other great voice casting.
Well, and his performance was good. I just don't think his voice really fit I don't think it Barry Allen.
It wasn't Barry. When you think of Batman, you think of a specific
baritone voice.
But I think of this... Almost I don't know voice scales there. I mean, help me out with that little mid-range there. What is that called?
You want a little bit more tenor in his voice.
There you go. Yes, I would have liked a little more tender voice.
Not tender. Tenor.
Yeah, I've got tender at the end, but again, we'll get there. I did like that. The acting was good. The job he did was fine. The voice didn't match what I thought the character should be.
Yeah. Barry Allen shouldn't have this deep, really manly voice. He should have a more, like you saying, more high pitched, more tenor in his voice, more energetic in his voice.
And part of me wonders, and I could be out on a limb here, part of me wonders if he was cast that way because I would imagine he's got this higher pitched voice because his body is moving at a high rate of speed constantly.
Yeah.
So without his powers for a while, did they choose to go deeper voice because he's not vibrating, so to speak, all the time?
Yeah, but he even has that voice in the opening.
Okay, true.
When he
You're
is
right.
the Flash,
Right.
yeah.
I'm trying to help out here.
No, but I mean, you had Neil Patrick Harris had voiced him in New Frontier.
Which is, oh my gosh. First of all, Neil Patrick Harris, just about anything, yes, but I thought he did a great job as the Flash in New Frontier.
Yeah, and then of course you had Michael Rosenbaum who voiced him. Well, he voiced Wally West, but the Flash in the Justice League animated series. And then I can't think of some of the other actors who have voiced him, but I know there's one actor who even voiced him where he talked fast.
Okay. I think I do recall slightly. I don't know who that was, but
yeah. Again, Justin Chambers, great performance. I have nothing against his performance. It, to me, felt a little disconnected with the character. What were your thoughts on Kevin McKidd as Thomas Wayne?
I loved it a little.
Yeah, I think he was perfect.
A little too much, maybe. But
I think he was perfect.
I thought he was excellently cast. Just a little bit of gruffness to go with the character. I didn't want somebody that sounded like Kevin Conroy, and I didn't want Kevin Conroy voicing it.
But have that baritone.
Still,
in his voice where he clearly is related to the Batman we're used to. And it being Kevin Conroy and even in this movie as the Bruce Wayne version, I think it was a great pairing and a great job there. One character I did want to talk about, again, there's so many characters and we talk about these characters in a lot of things, but one character I do want to talk about is Grifter. Were you familiar with the character of Grifter prior to watching this?
I thought it was just Red Hood in an alternate universe. So, no, I was not.
No, so Grifter is actually a character from Wildcats. Are you familiar with Wildcats?
Yes, it was my high school mascot. See?
No, this is Wildcats, with cats being abbreviation for covert action team. I've actually forgotten what Wildcat stands for. Yeah, covert action teams. I was right.
Good for you. Nice.
There was even a cartoon back in the 90s, a Wildcats cartoon, lasted one season.
How did I miss that? But okay, all right.
But for those of you who are like Blake and have no idea who Grifter is and who Wildcats are, let me inform you, for those of you who listened to my Image comic history throughout the month of June, Wildcats and Grifter are Image comic characters.
Did not know. I got to go back and listen to those episodes then, Laramie.
So Grifter was originally an Image comic character. However, when Jim Lee left Image Comics, he sold his company, Wildstorm Productions, to DC, and that meant, because the way Image was built, Jim Lee owned all of his characters. That means that all of those characters now came with him and became DC characters.
Nice.
And they decided to insert Grifter into the DC universe right around this time of Flashpoint. And then they kept his background and everything the same from the Image comic. And so there you have it. You've got, to my knowledge, and you can message me and correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, the first Image character to cross over to DC Comics.
Don't ever say that podcasts aren't educational. That's all I got to say.
So I found that fun and interesting. Again, not the first time he was animated, because there was a Wildcats television show in the 90s. But first time he is part of DC and a DC movie. And again, voiced by Danny Jacobs in this movie, who's just a phenomenal voice actor. Does a bunch of stuff. I know he's done like the Batman video games.
Yes.
He's Zaz in the Batman video games. And many, many other things. But yeah, so now let me ask the question. Out of all the characters, you kind of asked me this.
Okay.
I'm going to ask it in the way I like to ask it. Who of these characters and these versions of these characters, who would you want to see again? And who do you wish would stand still in the middle of a war?
I feel like sorry, you got me with, because that's one of the things I'll talk about later. That particular part.
Yeah.
I didn't see Martha Wayne as the Joker, and I would have liked to. I know you didn't. I know she wasn't there. I would have liked.
Yeah.
You got one little scene with the blood on the mouth.
Yeah.
But
you got more than you get in the comic.
True, you get none in the comic whatsoever, which is quite the ripoff. I would have liked to have seen a little more of her. And I wish, who do I wish would have stood still in the middle of war? Probably Aquaman.
Yeah.
Can we? I'm not going to say that word on here because there might be children listening. Aquaman is a rear end, Laramie. He is quite quite the.
Well, I mean, Aquaman and Wonder Woman are the villains
in
the story.
They are. But if you watch the movie, the cartoon, Aquaman, the reason they're at war is explained a little further in the movie than it is in the comic, it seems.
Yeah, the reason they're at war is still stupid.
Yeah, it's very stupid. So, Aquaman could stand still. First, we got to get this out of the way. Why is every male figure, even the females, most of the males, straight yoked in this animated movie? Okay, everyone's traps are the size of my head.
Yeah, everyone's shaped like a golf tee. Yeah.
Sorry, had to get that out of the way. They're all walking around. There's no neck on any character.
No, and they've got the WCW era Bill Goldberg traps.
Yeah, they're huge.
That it just goes from shoulder to ear.
So I don't know if Aquaman stood still. I don't know that a sword would penetrate those lats on the backside of him anyways. But yeah. So there's my two. It's tough to say whether I'd want Wonder Woman or Aquaman standing still in the middle of a war.
Yeah. I tell you, I would have liked to have seen more in the movie. I'm talking about the movie.
Right. I
would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the Shazam family.
Yeah.
Captain Thunder.
I liked the
aspect.
It was a fun part of a movie that was rather serious at certain points.
Yeah. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more than that. Because I think that also would have helped to the shocker that happens at the end when Wonder Woman just straight up murders Billy.
Yep.
So I think I would have liked a little bit more of that story just to let that hit a little bit harder. I would have been fine without well, I can't really say that. I would have been honestly fine without the added stuff. I'm not going to say without the character, but without all the added stuff they clearly put in with Hal Jordan just because they wanted more with Hal Jordan.
Dude, okay, I can agree with that for sure. Yeah, we just want him to blow up on a spaceship. Like, that's...
Yeah.
It's shoehorned in there just to get the character's name in the comic.
Yeah. But ultimately they did a great job with these characters. They used the right amount of most of them as they needed, and I think it worked. So I have absolutely no problem with the cast overall.
Tough to... Not going to argue that with you. Maybe jumping a little ahead, how do you feel about Jeff Johns as a writer here?
So I don't mind Jeff Johns.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of people who have he kind of seems like a polarizing comic book creator. You either like him or you don't. I've never really disliked Jeff Johns. I do think that sometimes in his comic, and we'll get into this more when we do talk about the comic, I do think that sometimes he writes as if you are going to read absolutely everything connected to the story.
So I agree. I do have, and a couple of a few of my favorite Batman stories are the Earth One Batman series by Jeff Johns. He does the writing for those, and he does a phenomenal job. He does fantastic. My concern became he was trying to do, like you said, too many things and tie in too much stuff because there were all these tie-ins on these comics. And trying to tie in way too much, and it became burdensome. He's not quite as bad as Tom King is for me as far as comic book writers, but this was not some of his best work.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and pause for our little ads here that we always put in, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about the comic.
All right.
Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes and VCRs and video rental stores? Is the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? If you want to go back to school, back to the future, or even back to the beach, then the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast is for you. I'm Tim Williams, the creator and host, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest co-host as we revisit a different 80s flick to discuss our first-time watch memories, iconic scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories along the way. New episodes drop every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast.
All right, so let's get into the moving panels that Blake and I were already starting to get into right before the break there. So the Flashpoint story, the main storyline was its own separate comic. It wasn't within like the Flash comics. It was its own thing. Flashpoint number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
5 issues.
Which came out in July through October of 2011. There were, as Blake was alluding to, there were a bunch of side stories. There was pretty much stories that gave you more about, Aquaman and Wonder Woman, more that gave you about Green Lantern, because in the comic, Abin Sur is Green Lantern. They don't do like they did in the movie where he died when he crashed and he's just dead. Yeah. Which I want to get into. What is different about Hal that... Now, we're going into the movie.
Okay.
What is different about Hal that the Ring would not
go
to
seek
him out?
Yeah.
Or Jon Stewart, for that matter. Or Kyle Rayner. Or anyone.
Yeah, I guess my only educated guess would be is that the Earth is so wrought with destruction at this point in time that it's like the Ring was like, never mind, we're out. Like, we're not even going anywhere here.
Yeah.
Hal Jordan is a little more arrogant maybe than he normally is. I know he's always a little arrogant, but maybe a little more so than normal. I don't know. Because Jon Stewart, nobody else even gets mentioned in this.
No.
No.
Like I said, it makes sense in the comic because Abin Sur did not die, so he is Green Lantern for Earth. But in the movie, for them to say, we found this alien, he died as soon as our people got there, and then his ring just flew off into space.
It's gone. Yeah.
I'm going, okay, but why? Why didn't it seek out someone on Earth? So I had an issue.
Well, again, you're already trying to cram so much information into this one run anyways. I guess they just felt like this was not something that we're going to explain in the main continuity of this comic.
But would you not agree that the movie does do a good job filling in as much as it can?
Some of it, yeah, sure. I agree.
Yeah. So let's just start off with the opening.
Yeah.
Because the movie has an opening, whereas the comic, just right off the bat.
Super confusing. I had to reread the first few pages of the comic a couple of different times because I was like, did I skip a page? Did I miss something?
So for anybody who's seen the movie but not familiar with the comic opens with Barry waking up at work. Mm-hmm. So that scene in the movie is not until 8 minutes in, because you get this whole opening of the Rogues trashing the Flash Museum, Flash stopping them, the Justice League showing up.
Eobard Thawne's there,
Yeah. Which I like, because it does this nice quick, hey, let's introduce you to everybody, all the characters we're going to be pretty much dealing with.
Nothing wrong with a little exposition, right?
Yeah. I like that. I like also that we get a little bit of Nora's death. Mm-hmm. We get to see that's something that's, going to be a factor here. Although, what did you think of them? Because this isn't in the comic. What did you think of them making it that it's Nora's birthday?
Yeah, that's a little weird. I don't know if that was supposed to give you more of a gut punch feeling. Oh, it's for her birthday. But again, it's another point between the movie and the comic that kind of blur together, where I'm like, why does that matter? What is the purpose of this?
Because the only thing they use it for was when he wakes up and he's in the new timeline, and his mom shows up and goes, "You were going to take me out for dinner for my birthday." In the comic, it's fine when she just goes, "We're going out to eat like we always do."
Yeah, we always are. Yeah, it's a standing date they have, apparently.
Yeah. So I don't understand the big change of making it her birthday. It also makes it kind of... I kind of thought this at the end, when you get to see the moment again, you realize that she's setting everything up for her own birthday dinner. Yeah. Like, she's setting out her cake and putting the candles on the cake.
It's quite depressing. Yeah. I'm like, man, Barry Allen is a loser son in this universe, apparently.
Or even his dad, because his dad would have still been alive at that point.
I thought she said his dad died of a heart attack.
But I don't think that happened.
Oh, okay, that didn't happen until after she had. Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, she had already survived, and then he later died.
Yeah,
because in the wow, I'm starting to blur the movie.
That's what I'm saying. Everything bleeds together. Yeah.
Yeah. In one of them, they actually show he has the memory
walking
of
in
his dad dying.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, while we're on the subject, Barry's memories.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on? So in the comic book, they just have these like big, 2-page almost spread panels,
sweeping
of
panels,
all of these bits of memories that are going into Barry's head, and it's causing him pain. And I even like that they do the thing more so in the comic than really in the movie, where he's worried that the new memories are going to take over, and he's going to forget that he needs to go back and change things. He's going to forget what of course, part of me wonders if that were to happen, he now has the Flash powers. Like, would he all of a sudden forget who he is?
Wait a minute, I don't know how all of a sudden fast. Yeah, they do a good job in the comic of really driving the point home of, okay, I'm losing my memory. In the movie, I feel like it's just kind of briefly mentioned.
Yeah, the movie, they mostly use his memories to be exposition.
Right, yeah, to kind of talk about what's going on or what's happened before. And
I love how he has a memory of the affair Wonder Woman and Aquaman have.
Was he there? Did he see that? That's traumatizing if he did. Gills everywhere. Yeah. I was a little confused as to why does he have certain memories?
Because he also one of his memories seems to be the death of Bruce Wayne and Thomas Wayne beating the crap out of. Like, they play that off as if it's Flash's memory. I mean, why is that your memory?
I think it's probably just a terrible job of cutting to flashbacks for everyone and not delineating between what are his memories and what has happened prior to right now.
I think, though, the Wonder Woman, Aquaman, you could have done through, Aquaman remembering it or something.
Anything else.
Like I said, and I'm not saying that it is Flash's memories, but they really make it feel.
They do.
Like it's Flash's memories.
They make it seem that way. Also,
I mean, he even said, there's even a line at some point in the movie where he says, well, based on these new memories.
Yeah. I mean, you remember Wonder Woman cutting the head off of Queen Mary? Like, those are your memories? It doesn't make much sense other than we have to do this and we're not sure of any other way to get it done.
Yeah. So before we get into the final, because I think the only other like big changes are in the final battle. Is there anything else like along the way that you wanted to bring up?
How did you feel? And I guess I'll start. I felt like Thomas Wayne, to be this rough, tough, distrusting Batman, is way too easily persuaded into hooking up a stranger to an electric chair and setting them out in a storm. It almost felt unbelievable to me. I kind of got pulled out of both the comic and the movie watching that happen.
So I see your point in that. I think that the argument to it is that this Thomas Wayne does not care about anybody. Like, he doesn't care. And so, I mean, you're looking at, he was going to flat out just murder Yo-Yo.
Yeah.
And Cyborg had to save her. And I think the movie kind of relays this a little bit more of him talking about, I used to be a doctor.
Right. Not anymore. Yeah.
I'm not a doctor anymore. The fact that this Batman has no problem whatsoever using guns, you know, I think he just straight up just doesn't care. And so I think part of it is when Barry says, hey, I want to be struck by lightning. He was like, dude, whatever. You know, I'm either curious because it's going to work, especially since he knows about that possibly this guy is connected to Bruce. So part of it is, this is either going to work or he's going to die, which means good riddance because this guy was using my son to take advantage of me.
So I'm going to stop you. Why save him after the first try then?
Because he's still Thomas Wayne.
Okay. So he's still got just enough left in him to care. Okay.
Yeah, he's still Thomas Wayne.
I can run with that.
You know, it's still, just like I would think, part of me almost wonders when he throws Yo-Yo off the building, does he not already know Cyborg's on the way?
Yeah, Cyborg's in the area. I'm sure he probably does. If he's as prepared as Bruce Wayne is, then yes, no doubt that he knows everything that's going on everywhere.
So, just like in the movie, do you think that he knew that Thawne was in that room?
I think he would have to, right?
Because he disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does the Batman vanish thing.
Yeah.
And
which I did like how they threw in that's what that feels like when Flash vanishes at one point in time in the movie. He's like, I guess that's what.
I always like when they do that stuff.
Are you okay with how little Superman is used in the movie and the comic?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Just because of what they decided to do with Superman, with him being, although they never do the whole Project Superman in the comic. Mm-hmm. They change up the costume. It's different.
They do
from the comic.
Yeah, it doesn't have the 1 like the S1.
Yeah, they give him the actual S, which makes you think apparently that S had to have been on something on the ship.
Right, because even the vault, the big door going in, is a Superman S.
Yeah,
it means hope.
Yeah, which is
sorry,
it flows like a river.
It's like a river.
Because even the differences there with. In the comic, he's just in like a test tube.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, he's in this entire giant room.
He's got a whole room to himself. Good for them.
Walking around in this giant room.
Little studio apartment.
But no, I like the way he's used. You know, he has never been out, and so he doesn't quite know what's going on. What do you think about the differences? We mentioned this earlier. Between in the comic book, when they actually get outside, he's so fascinated by the outside, and you assume by the feeling he's getting from soaking up the sun, that he just flies away.
Yeah, just see ya.
Versus in the comic, when he goes, when the guards start shooting at all the other heroes, and he says, "No, these are my friends," and then
severs a guy's arm,
and then disintegrates people with his
murders everyone.
I mean, Superman just straight up murders all of these guards.
I guess we know where Zack Snyder got his inspiration from, then, it seems, right there. And then, but again, you're talking about a multiverse. Yeah. This is a different timeline, and Superman has been a caged animal, so to speak. You know, if someone's coming along offering him friendship, he's going to protect those people.
I do like, though, that the comic gives him the reason why he goes away is because he's in shock of what he's just done.
Yeah.
And so he flies, versus the comic where he's just like, oh, the sun's pretty, and then just flies off.
I'm out of here.
And of course they have him come back in the exact same way. where all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and saves the day right when it needs to be saved. So I like
why not,
both
Laramie?
cases of that. Yeah, I like, but although, and we'll get into this character in a minute. In the comic, he comes in and just smashes Enchantress to pulp.
Smithereens.
Yeah, just
We like to
lands
say.
right on her, smashes her. Versus in the movie, he just lasers Aquaman's arm off.
Yeah, sweet. First of all, awesome moment where he lasers his arm off. Not gonna lie to you, enjoyed that. Might have been one of the highlights of the movie for me.
Yeah, and this isn't lasers off his hand, so it has the connection to the comic where Aquaman loses a hand. His entire arm at the bicep.
At the bicep.
Yeah, at the bicep, lasers his arm off.
I guess one of the silver linings of being lasered by Superman, it is self-cauterizing. You're not going to bleed out. At least.
It's probably true.
Yeah, he was
That is
fine.
probably true.
It's just a flesh wound. Sorry, had to throw in Monty there.
You're fine. It's just a scratch. Because Aquaman really doesn't act like he just had his arm cut
I know,
off.
he just keeps
really
walking
doesn't.
around.
He just kind of goes, and backs up a little bit. Like, what
When
what
you've
just
got
happened?
traps like that, you're fine, okay? You're absolutely fine.
But since we just brought her up, what did you think about not having the Enchantress double cross?
Okay, so help me remember. In the
So
comic,
in the comic,
she double crosses,
yes,
right?
In the comic, Enchantress is part of Cyborg's
And in the movie, she
quote-unquote
doesn't.
Justice League.
Yeah.
And when they go into battle at the end, the big battle at the end with Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and they come in as the Resistance, Enchantress all of a sudden turns on them because in the comic, she's the one that turns Captain Thunder back into the kids.
Yeah.
And that's when they find out that she's betrayed them. Then she starts being on the Amazon side and killing people. And then Superman comes in and just kills her.
Does this thing.
In the movie, you see her in the hologram at the beginning, but then you never see her again.
You don't see her again at all. I was fine without her, and you can see it was tough for me to even remember which was which with her being in it. I was fine without her. She didn't do much to serve the plot point because, again, it's not like Shazam / Captain Thunder was doing much anyways, it felt like.
No, I liked the way they did it in the movie.
Yeah, the movie was fine, yeah.
Yeah, where Captain Thunder does take on Wonder Woman, although they don't bring up in the movie, at least that I can remember.
I can't remember why.
They don't bring up because when the kids do turn into Captain Thunder and Captain Thunder shows up, he's got the scars
going
on his face, but I don't think there's any mention as to why he has the scars on his face. Whereas
he
in the
says
comic,
Wonder Woman,
in the comic they do tell about how Wonder Woman gave him the scars.
Yeah.
So
and the thing is, it almost looks like an Aquaman trident scar also. There's like the 3 scars across the face, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. Some of that didn't make much sense.
But I like how they have it where he's battling Wonder Woman. It seems like Wonder Woman cannot stop him. I mean, even she takes the blade and it just breaks on his chest, and she's looking like, what else can I do? And then, of course, she uses the lasso. And I like that moment where she says, how do you turn... And he says Shazam.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect. And then, of course, the complete, utter just shock of her murdering Billy Batson.
Yeah, a child,
I don't know if you're supposed to imply that she murders all the other kids, but you definitely see her murder Billy Batson.
I think Billy's like the leader. It's kind of like if your quarterback goes out with injury, the rest of the team's in shock a little bit.
Well, and I think in the comic, they give it a little bit more depth to say like he is the persona of Captain Thunder. So without him, there is no Captain Thunder.
Right.
So I think that's what they're kind of implying there. But we get to the end. Batman has been shot. He's going down. Flash goes to take him to safety. Thawne shows up, which that's different because in the comic, Thawne shows up and there's a 3-way fight between them. With Flash and Batman both fighting Thawne. This one, they just leave the fight to be Thawne and Flash. But then it ends the same way with Batman killing Thawne. Which death did you prefer? Did you prefer the comic where it's the sword through the, or whatever that was, through the chest, from behind, or did you prefer the bullet through the head?
Sword through the chest, because it comes with the line. Don't stand still during war.
Doctor's advice when you're in the middle of a war, don't stand still.
A great line.
It is a good line.
Yeah, I'd say I'd prefer that. And if for no other reason...
Yeah, but the shot of looking through Thawne's head at Batman holding the gun.
Very cool way to do it. But it's still a Batman using a gun. And I don't know, maybe I'm just conditioned to not want to see my hero in that light.
Yeah, but we had seen him throughout the entire... I mean, we saw the team up with him and Grifter, both...
Yeah, both firing
gun in each
off,
hand, firing off. And so we had already established that he was good with the gun.
He uses guns. Yeah, I know he does, and I know
versus just randomly picking up some spear from the battlefield. And
but that's the thing. Batman's resourceful. He's using what he's got around him to make it up. He's probably out of bullets at that point in time. He's used them all up, and he's using what he's got around him. That's why the comic version's better.
Okay. I'll give you that. I like the movie version. I'm gonna stick with I like the movie version.
You are entitled to your opinion no matter how wrong it is, Laramie.
But are you okay with it being Batman who takes down Thawne and not Flash?
I am. Because I think Thomas Wayne is so hard set on getting Barry back the timeline so that Bruce can still be alive. That he's going to do whatever it takes to get Barry Allen back to that original timeline.
I did like, though, in the movie, after he takes him down, I can't remember the exact wording, but I think Flash says, "You killed Thawne," and Batman says something along the lines of, "Maybe so," or maybe, perhaps not. Like, he says something to indicate that...
Very ambiguous.
Yeah, that Thawne may not actually be dead.
Yeah.
Which part of me wonders, should they have added in something that maybe showed a little bit of Thawne's wound healing?
Yeah, the quick healing.
Because in the comic, they do this whole thing of Thawne saying that because Barry did what he did, Thawne is no longer connected to Barry.
To any timeline. Like, he can go and do whatever he pleases. He's now
free to do whatever he wants. He never was able to kill Barry because if he killed Barry, he would not exist anymore.
Right.
It's kind of interesting little take. So, before we get into the actual ending, though, the epilogue, if you will. Before we get into that, I want to talk about the whole, because I'm a big time travel person. Okay. I like to break down the time travel in a movie. I want it to make sense to me. If you haven't already, check out the Back to the Future episode of the 80s Flick Flashback, where I talk about a lot of the issues I have with the time travel.
And there are many.
So here's my question to you. Let me see if you can help me understand this. What does saving Nora have to do with the Waynes and Superman's landing?
Oh, hold on. I've got it right here. Yep, absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
because I've written down.
Because wouldn't of those had already happened?
Yes, they would have, theoretically, Laramie, if you want to spoil it for everyone.
And the comic doesn't do anything better. All they say is when you saved your wife, when you saved your mom, Eobard says you shattered history. And I'm going, but how does doing that change things that happened before it?
It should, like you're saying, him saving his mom altered the trajectory of a rocket from an unknown planet. I don't understand that. I understand throwing a stone into water and the ripples, but that makes no sense to me.
But again, from before the event.
How does that affect it?
Because you're not telling me that Superman and Batman, that Bruce and Clark are younger than Barry.
Right.
You're not telling me that.
That's what they're saying.
Especially Clark, because he was obviously a baby at the time. And if anything, I mean, usually Bruce is, 10 when the event happens?
8 to 10, I think.
So, again, based off of the way we see Barry as a kid, he's right around that age, too.
Yeah. You're
not telling me that Bruce and Barry are the same age. You are not telling me that.
I've
So
always been of the understanding that Barry is younger. Yeah, should be younger.
I mean, I'm fine with the butterfly effect. I'm fine with, one small little change can make the ripples that affect other things.
Yeah, this is not
it. Just
though.
makes no sense how it affects things that happened before that event.
It was again another one of those things that kind of takes me out of the story as I'm reading, because I'm like you, I'm not quite as critical as you. I don't have quite that kind of mind, but there are certain points where I have to stop and think, okay, this is not making sense to me. Can I make it make sense? Yeah. And if not, how am I going to continue to have any believability? Granted, this is a fictional story in this.
Yeah, because I'm fine with the Aquaman Wonder Woman war. I mean, to me, that kind of makes sense. Aquaman has always kind of had, his
edge.
Problems with the
land dwellers.
The land dwellers.
Yep.
And without the Justice League, without Superman, without that connection, and the same thing with Wonder Woman, without her seeing the good that people could do and that she could do outside, I'm fine with that. Totally fine with that. I can, whatever the events that would lead Captain Cold to become Citizen Cold and be a good guy, whatever led to the fact that instead of just one person being Shazam, it's the entire Shazam family being Shazam. Okay, fine. But the Superman and Batman thing makes no sense to me.
It doesn't. Or how did you feel about Wonder Woman murdering Steve Trevor?
I liked it. I like that. Okay. I like that twist.
Yeah.
I like that twist. I like that Steve is still, the military guy. I like that.
Do you like that Steve is apparently like Sam Elliott's age, running around?
Well,
with that
he's got facial hair. I think it's just a very light blonde. I think
it's all white, wasn't it?
Yeah, I still think it works. I liked it. I like that connection. I had no problem with that connection.
Okay.
Just like I like little nods to other things. Like when Batman and Grifter team up, and Grifter even talks about them teaming up. Yeah. And he calls them, what does he call Grifter? The boy.
Yeah, the boy. I can't remember
the
what
boy
it
something.
is.
Yeah, not the boy Wonder, but he calls him the boy.
That little boy Wonder connection, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that. So I had no problem with that. But yeah, time travel, I have a problem with time travel. I really do.
Yeah, it was not well done here in the comic or the movie. I'll give you that.
I do like, though, now we'll get into the epilogue here. When he gets back, after he stops himself and he gets back, I do like that his costume has changed.
Yes,
but they do not mention it.
None at all.
And it's just that nice little thing going, something's still different.
Still off.
Yeah, something is still different, but...
We're talking about time travel kind of here, and before we get too far into the epilogue, I wanted to talk about a speed treadmill, Laramie.
Yeah. The cosmic treadmill.
See, I'm not familiar enough with Flash to have known that. So a scene, and I think it's the comic that does
the comic refers
treadmill.
to the treadmill, yeah. Because he says that's the, in the comic, he says that's the only way he can get the speed to time travel.
Yeah, that one took me out too. I was like, could anything be sillier?
Oh, that's
apparently that's canon.
Yeah, that's a big historical thing there for the Flash is the cosmic. I mean, they've even had it in the television show.
They need to get rid of that. Just my opinion. Sorry, all the Flash fans.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Okay, well
that's not going to happen. The cosmic treadmill is, if you're going to get rid of the cosmic treadmill, then you got to get rid of half of the Batcave.
You are not getting rid of the T-Rex or the giant penny, Laramie.
You got to get rid of half of the Batcave. Especially the Adam West version of the Batcave.
Okay, I can agree with that. Yes, there are a lot of things.
There's just a machine for everything.
Press this button to flush the toilet, Robin.
Yeah. Oh, you've got a wasp sting? Well, let's go to the bat wasp sting remover.
Everything is the bat something.
Yeah. Oh. All right, so let's get into the ending. So he gets back. This happens in both the comic and the movie, and they are almost identical.
Oh, yeah, just about.
I like that in the movie, like I said, Flash's suit is just slightly different, but there's no reference to it. And, of course, it has the design that more looks like the New 52. And he tells the whole story to Bruce. He then gives Bruce the letter that Thomas gave him right before Flash traveled back through time.
All right, I've got chicken skin popping up right now, just you talking about it, just for a heads up, what we're going towards here.
And he gives Bruce the letter. It, of course, floors Bruce when he realizes it's his dad's handwriting. He then reads the letter. We see the love your father, Thomas. We see Bruce Wayne. We see Batman cry. Then I love the line when he tells him, hey, you're a heck of a messenger.
Yeah.
And then he tells him thank you. And I love that that's the end.
Yep.
I love that that's the end.
Yep.
That they don't try to do anything over the top to make it look like, again, they could have done something where Flash all of a sudden realizes, oh, no, I still haven't corrected everything.
Something's still wrong. Why is my suit different? Yeah.
They don't have just the cheery moment of Flash, realizing that he's back and everything's back to normal. And, good to be here with all of my Justice League friends.
That's what I imagined they were going to end it on. Just a picture in the Hall of Justice and all of them standing around. But I'm glad they didn't.
No, I like the way they ended it. I will say, and I'll let you talk about your differences here. I will say I liked the moment in the comic just a little bit better because they are standing when he hands him the letter. And there is a panel, no dialogue in the panel, but you can tell by the way it's drawn that Batman's legs give way.
Yeah.
And Flash has to guide him to a chair.
Does a fantastic job. The art in the whole series is phenomenal as far as the comic goes. And that scene in particular, that panel in the comic is one that does really get you. The comic does it better. Let me go ahead and say that up front. I agree with you on that.
Not that the movie does it bad, but the comic does it better.
The comic does it better for a couple of reasons, I think. One, because I can insert whose voice I want to insert into those characters. And I can read it at a pace and in a tone that I think that it's happening in that moment.
But I mean, you still got Kevin Conroy as Batman in the movie.
You do, but the speed at which certain things were said and how something. Yeah, so I prefer the comic. For those of you that are listening that are fans of The Office, this is kind of like the teapot letter to me that Jim gives Pam. We never know what is fully in the letter. I want to know what the whole letter says, first of all. Like that's my thing. And I know sometimes it's better to have less is more kind of deal. Yeah. But this man, this fictional character, let me go ahead and put that up front. I know he's fictional. This man has spent his entire life wanting to prove to his dead parents that he has lived a life worthy of their memory, like that has honored their legacy in his own way. Mm-hmm. And so to have him be able to read actual words from his father was, I can only imagine, a cathartic moment for him. It was a cathartic moment for me, and it was just to see Bruce Wayne, one, showing emotion, two, at a moment of weakness. I thought it was so well done in the comic. They copied it almost scene for scene in the movie, but the comic just does such a good job of, like Laramie was talking about, conveying the emotion and the physical state of Batman at that moment. And it's just, I don't know, it's certainly one of the best scenes of any Batman moment, live action or animated, for me.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I think that's a perfect place to stop there. So let's go ahead and bag it, stack it, or trade it. So continue your thoughts there, Blake. How would you rank this?
I am possibly going to be throwing Spoon for a loop here. I'm trading it, save for one scene. I'm going to cut out that last panel. And almost like a newspaper article, and paste on my wall. I really like the ending. It is fantastically done. But the comic and the movie are messy to me. There's too much going on. There's a lot of fluff that doesn't need to be in there. I would say that I'll trade it in, and just like I did with the Justice League, I'll trade it in for the new Flash live action movie that we're getting that's supposed to be Flashpoint and see how that goes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, honestly, I didn't expect that one. Because I'm saying bag it.
Okay. Wow.
I'm not going to disagree with you that there's a lot there. But in terms of the movie, and that is what we're rating here,
right?
The movie, bag it, sack it, or trade it. There's enough that you can follow everything without being confused for the most part. Yes, there are some small things, but I think that as an overall movie, it flows, it reveals enough so you know why this is happening, why that's happening, why Aquaman and Wonder Woman are fighting, why Thomas Wayne is Batman. You even get that little nod of the Joker twist.
Mm-hmm.
I like all of that. I think it develops well as a great story, and I think it's a great adaptation. I think that if you are not a comic book reader, but you want to know this Flashpoint story that I'm sure if you know comics, even in movies and television shows, you've heard about it. Flash television show did their own version. That one I would trade. Okay. But in terms of this movie, I think this is a successful movie. I think it's an enjoyable movie to watch and gives you enough information that even without knowing a lot, you can go in watching this. So I bag it. So I think this is one of the first times we've been on complete opposite ends.
Yeah, disagreed. We'll have to carry on the conversation after the mic cuts off. I'm very curious to hear some more.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Tell your friends. Really helps it. Written reviews help a lot too. So go out there and write some reviews. You write me a good one, I'll read it for you on the air. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks Blake for joining me. And for today, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramie Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Well, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from 3 nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.